Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Distance Learning Program. It's great to be here today, and I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to begin with pronunciation from the Oxford Picture Dictionary. If you can turn to page 72, we're going to read the words and phrases on page 72 and 73. So I'm going to read, and please repeat after me. A grocery store. Seafood. Seafood is where you can buy fish. Poultry. Poultry is chicken. Meat. Different kinds of meat are beef and pork and lamb. Dairy. These are milk products like cheese, milk, and butter. Customer. Produce section. Scale. Grocery clerk. Pet food. Aisle. Cart. Manager. Canned foods. Beans. Soup. Tuna. Dairy. Margarine. Sour cream. Yogurt. Grocery products. Aluminum foil. Plastic wrap. Plastic storage bags. Frozen foods. Ice cream. Frozen vegetables. Frozen dinner. Ways to ask for information in a grocery store. Excuse me, where are the carrots? Can you please tell me where to find the dog food? Do you have any lamb chops today? Pair practice. Make conversations. Can you please tell me where to find the dog food? Sure, it's in aisle 1B. Do you need anything else? Yes, where are the carrots? A grocery store. Bakery. That's where you find the bread products and maybe rolls, donuts. Snacks. Those are where the candy bars are located, pretzels, potato chips. Shopping basket. Self-checkout. Line. Check stand. Cashier. Bagger. Cash register. Bottle return. Baking products. flour, sugar, oil, beverages, apple juice, coffee, soda, pop, snack foods, potato chips, nuts, candy bar, baked goods, cookies, cake, bagels. Ask your classmates, share the answers. What is your favorite grocery store? Do you prefer to shop alone or with friends? Which foods from your country are hard to find? Think about it, discuss. Is it better to shop every day or once a week? Why? Why do grocery stores put snacks near the check stands? What's good and what's bad about grocery stores? Okay, now that we've finished the pronunciation part of the lesson, I'm going to turn to the Ventures3 book, and we're going to start Unit 6D. Unit 6D on page 76. The focus of this part of the lesson is rules about time. Rules about time. The first thing I'd like to ask you about is, what does dinner time mean? Dinner time. Well, dinner time is the time that most people eat their evening meal. And I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. What time do you like to eat dinner? What time do you usually eat dinner? What time do people in your native country usually eat dinner? Now, you know, different cultures or different countries have different rules about social things like time or possibly some other topics. I'd like to ask you some questions about what your cultures think about holding hands in public. Think about these different topics and try to think about how your culture believes about whether things are good or bad about the following topics, okay? What about shaking hands? Do people shake hands in your country? Or bowing? Or what about kissing as a greeting? So how do you greet people in your country? What do you think about expressing different opinions in public? What things do you talk about with your friends? Are there certain things that you consider private that you don't discuss with your friends or with people that you don't know very well? So different cultures have different social rules about these different topics, and today we're going to talk about rules about time. The first thing I'd like to say is that in America, American employers expect employees to come to work on time. They don't look very favorably on employees who are constantly late to work. In fact, it's possible that you can get fired if you don't show up to work on time, especially after you've been warned. So it says, if employees are late too often, they could lose their jobs. That's what happens when you get fired. You can't come to work any longer. So what I'd like to do today is ask you a couple of questions before we start the reading, and then I'm going to read the article, which is on page 76. What are some rules about time in this country, in America? Well, like I just said, it's important for people to be on time in America. Usually when you go to an appointment, the doctors, or if you're going for a job interview, it's not very good to show up late. You need to arrive on time or maybe even a little bit early. In your country, different social rules apply sometimes, and maybe it's not so bad to be late. But in America, it's socially unacceptable if you're constantly late to appointments. What are some rules about time in other countries? In this book, it says that in the Philippines, it's not so terrible if you don't show up for an appointment. If you are interrupted by a call from a friend or someone needs to meet you at the airport, many times in the Philippines, people will just skip the appointment and go pick up their friends at the airport. So your friendship is more important than being punctual, and punctual means being on time. Now I'd like to read the passage, Rules About Time. So follow along with me on page 76 as I read. Every culture has rules about time. These rules are usually unspoken, but everybody knows them. In some countries, such as the United States, England, and Canada, punctuality is an unspoken rule. It is important to be on time, especially in business. People usually arrive a little early for business appointments. Business meetings and personal appointments often have strict beginning and ending times. When you are late, other people might think you are rude, disorganized, or irresponsible. Rude means impolite or not polite. These countries also have cultural rules about time in social situations. For example, when an invitation for dinner says 6 p.m., it is impolite to arrive more than 5 or 10 minutes late. On the other hand, when the invitation is for a party from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, or a reception from 3:30 to 5:30, you can arrive anytime between those hours. For public events with specific starting times, movies, concerts, sports events, you should arrive a few minutes before the event begins. In fact, some theaters do not allow people to enter if they arrive after the event has started. Other cultures have different rules about time. In Brazil, it is not unusual for guests to arrive an hour or two after a social event begins. In the Philippines, it is not uncommon for people to miss scheduled events, a class, or an appointment, to meet a friend at the airport. Many Filipinos believe that relationships with people are more important than keeping a schedule. When you are living or working with people from different cultures, it is important to know that culture's unspoken rules about time. Without this knowledge, there can be misunderstandings. All right. So, hopefully you understood the passage well, But if you have any questions about any of the vocabulary and you need help, please contact me either by email or you can text me at 770-670-9501. Next, I'd like for you to turn to page 77, and we're going to check your understanding in the After You Read section. The first question is, what are unspoken rules? What are unspoken rules? Well, the prefix un means not. So unspoken means not spoken. These are rules that are not in writing or not talked about frequently, but they're rules that everyone understands. So people just have an innate understanding of these rules, and they're not written down or they're not talked about. It's just a cultural rule that everyone understands. Number 2, find the word punctuality in the second paragraph. Underline it. What phrase in the next sentence is a clue to its meaning? So all we have to do is go back to the article and find the word punctuality. Well, in the second paragraph, you can find the word punctuality in the first sentence. It says, in some countries such as the United States, England, and Canada, punctuality is an unspoken rule. So you can underline punctuality. And in the next sentence, it says, it is important to be on time. So the next sentence tells you what punctuality means. It's important to be on time. Many times when you don't understand a word that you're reading in a paragraph, some of the context of the words around it can tell you what the word means. So many times you can just continue to read and you will find out what the word means. This is an example of that right here. In the next sentence, it tells you that punctuality means being on time. Now let's look at number 3. It says, according to the article, punctuality is an unspoken rule in the United States, England, and Canada. What examples in business and social situations does the article give to support that statement? So what we need to do is to find some examples of the importance of punctuality. It says here, business meetings and personal appointments often have strict beginning and ending times. When you're late, other people might think you're rude or disorganized or irresponsible. So that shows you that business meetings and personal appointments often begin or end at strict times. So that's one example right there. It also says that if you arrive at a dinner, if you arrive more than 5 or 10 minutes late in the next paragraph, it says people might think that you're rude or inconsiderate. Finally, over here at the beginning of the next column, it says for public events with specific starting times, movies, concerts, and sports events, you should arrive a few minutes before the event begins. And it says some theaters will not let you enter if you have arrived after the event begins. So especially if it's a live event, like a performance, a play where people are acting, many times if you arrive at the play late after the performance begins, you will have to wait till intermission to enter the theater. The next question says, when should you arrive for the following events in the United States? A reception, a concert, a sporting event, a medical appointment, a business meeting, dinner at someone's house, a party, a movie. Most of these events that are listed here are events that you need to be punctual for. Remember, if it's a reception that begins at 3:30 and ends at 5:30, for those types of events, you can arrive anytime in between those hours. Or for a party from 6 to 8, it's okay to arrive a little late. But for dinner or business appointments or medical appointments, it's very important to arrive on time in America. Number 5, some theaters do not allow people to enter after the event has started. In your opinion, what is the reason? Well, I'd say the main reason is that it could interrupt the performance. When it's a live performance, sometimes actors might get distracted if they see people entering after the performance begins. And also, people who pay money to go see a performance like an act or some type of play, they don't want to be distracted by the door constantly opening and people entering the theater and passing in front of them. Number 6, Manilo's Filipino family expects him to meet them when they arrive at the train station. The train arrives at the same time as his English class. What do you think he will do? Why? Well, remember, we were reading in the passage that in the Philippines, many people feel that personal relationships with other people are more important than keeping a schedule. So I would think that Manolo is probably going to go to the train station and pick up his family. Thank you for visiting with me, and I hope to see you in the next video.